Welcome, everybody. And you are going to do review of 6 and 7 to make sure you know what it means, the voucher system. And this is the expenditure cycle I want you to review. I put this on PowerPoint on Blackboard. So expenditure cycle, see that? This cycle of spending the money, outgoing cash. So it's cash outflow. And of course, it's opposite of the revenue cycle. So revenue cycle, account receivable is invoices and receiving the money, and here we're spending the money. So when we do this cash cycle, you're going to have two subsystems, and they include purchase processing, all the purchases that we did, and the cash disbursement processing. So it's one was chapter 7 and one was chapter 6. So when we make purchases and we buy, I noticed some of you would have problems with doing the homework because you have to understand the flow. If you didn't, let's say you got the bill in the mail on Monday, but the merchandise is only going to come on Friday. You don't even enter it to QuickBooks. This is not being entered until the merchandise is received. So it's usually you enter the inventory that comes without the bill, and the bill comes later. But if a bill came earlier, you do not enter it. You just hold the bill and you wait for the paperwork. And that's the important part of the voucher system and understanding this. So regardless if it's merchandising or not, you would have the same flow. You're entering bills only when you know the service was provided. So the whole objective of this cycle is, of course, to order things that when you need them and not to spend, not to overspend, and to make sure that we receive things and we're paying for things that we received, not paying for services we didn't get. So to ensure that all goods and services are ordered and needed, that's the purchase requirement, really, a requisition. And then we prepare a purchase order. We order and check out prices and verify that everything is in good condition and we get the orders. So receive the inventory. Safeguard the goods until it's needed, that it goes into the warehouse and it's not being stolen. So we want to make sure that it's there. To ensure invoices pertaining to the goods and services are valid and correct, even just to total everything and to make sure that the calculation is right. Or if we are promised free shipping and there is a shipping charge, to go and fix it. Mistakes happen all the time. So you really have to verify all the paperwork. Record and classify expenditure promptly and accurately. So when you spend the money, where is it going? What is it for? Is it office supplies? Is it different types of supplies? You have to really classify right. To post obligation of cash disbursement to proper supplier's account, we call them vendors on QuickBooks, and accounts payable ledger will be correct. To ensure that all cash disbursement are related to authorized expenditure. So that's the whole cash disbursement. Another thing in cash disbursement, you usually have petty cash covered in this chapter. Okay, so here's an example of the flow. There's a purchasing agent, receiving, inventory, and production. Just the point that not the purchasing agent doesn't do anything. He doesn't do everything. He just does the purchases. He recognizes the need for goods and services, and he places the order. But receiving is usually done by the warehouse, different people. So the connection between all of them, we see also the connection later on. QuickBooks is really by the name of the vendor. And inventory is part of budgeting and cash planning and inventory control. You will have reports about that. Accounts payable, it goes to, if an open purchase order and the bill is there, it will go to make the cash disbursement, and the cash disbursement is being paid, and you constantly maintain the accounts payable. Now, the voucher system, if you hear the word voucher system, there are documents pertaining to the voucher system. Okay, and this is what I want to review. So chapter 6 and 7, 6 was also about service bills and 7 was about purchases. But both of them should follow this paperwork. So if there's an audit, they asking, do you follow the voucher system? You really should say yes, because QuickBooks is following the flow of the paperwork. So purchase requisition is not on the computer. It's not on QuickBooks Desktop, but it's a paper that just says we need. So basically purchase requisition could be a warehouse warning that we are going down, and you could also see it as a report called stock status, how many we have in stock and time to order. So that's the first paper that doesn't really exist separately on the computer. But this next purchase order for sure. So we really starting in this paper, purchase order. And after we place the order, you email it and so on. You're going to get a receiving report in the warehouse that they received the goods. So sometimes the inventory comes, you ordered on Monday and the inventory comes on Thursday. That's great. You get both paperwork together, the purchase order and the receiving report, and you fill up a paper, and supplier's invoice will be attached because that comes in the mail. So the vendor's invoice comes in the mail and we fill it up and we say, enter bills against the inventory. So that's what happens usually in step 3. Remember, if you got step 3, you got an invoice in the mail and you did not get the merchandise, not at all, you're just holding the invoice and you're not even entering it. So you're only entering after you have a good receiving report. Disbursement voucher. The voucher is prepared. It means the voucher is really a folder. In the folder, you would have a receiving report, supplier invoice, and disbursement voucher. So the voucher is a folder that has at least these 3 documents. Some businesses call this a check request. Maybe you've seen that. The check request says that this is the name of the vendor, ABC supplier, and here we have a purchase order, and we received the goods and the invoice attached. So when I have all these documents, I can prepare a check. So this voucher is ready to disbursement check, to actually write the check. Okay, debit memorandum is related to a return. Why is it called debit? Because accounts payable is being debited. So debit memorandum is a return that decreases our liability, and that's a debit memorandum to accounts payable. We're going to return some inventory and we will not pay for it. So that's a debit memorandum. And we have to follow up and sometimes get a new supplier, new vendor that gives us better prices. So a new supplier form will have to be entered as a new vendor. So this is the documents that you need to know as voucher system. So again, voucher system must have number 1, purchase order, number 2, receiving report, number 3, supplier's invoice. So if I would ask you, what is a voucher system? A voucher system is a set of documents that pertain to the expenditure cycle, to cash disbursement, and we must have at least 3 documents: purchase order, receiving report, supplier's invoice, 1, 2, 3. Of course, purchase requisition is extra, and a lot of people just do it by verbal or by email. Please order this and that. It could be from your owner, boss, whatever, and the manager, or you can get a status report that says we need. So purchase requisition can be skipped, but purchase order cannot. Purchase order is like a little contract, but if they promise me free shipping, it's free shipping. Even though if UPS goes on strike, they promised me a $5 price, can't be $5.50. So all these things is like a little contract. And purchase orders are usually faxed or emails from your screen. Okay, so the rest is about proposal. Proposal means bidding. When people fight for a price and to get a contract, the example is government contract. They have to get a few bids, at least 3, and the proposal are being evaluated and they check which one is the best price. So that's request for proposal. Okay, purchasing and accounts payable processing system. Before we entering checks, you need to do all this purchasing request for proposal, inventory status reports that I told you that we need to check how many we have in stock, receiving files, the receiving report, payables, we'll have the disbursement voucher file. Each one could be for each vendor, a little file to say that this is already processed and this is complete. Okay, so again, when you're doing chapter 7 on homework, you're doing Larry landscaping only. If there are 3 items on the order and you only received 1, this is important to listen, you are changing the quantity of the other 2 items to 0. You're zeroing them out. That means it becomes on a back order, but you only received one item, so 1 item is completely done. Verify that number and the rest zero them out. So zero the quantity, and then you'll be able to continue. And then it will match. So you will have an open purchase order exist because the items that you didn't receive are still on a purchase order. Okay, so that's important when you do homework, and that's what happens in business. It could be I got 5 boxes today, but 10 boxes I'll get tomorrow. So you're only writing what you received. Purchase returns allowance. Okay, they also call it an RA. So return authorization number. Especially these days, you're not going to issue return authorization to everybody who just says, it's a little bit not comfortable, whatever. A lot of places will say right now there's no returns. So many things are not going to be returned, but you have to find out before you buy if there is a return policy. So if there is, they will issue a return number, return authorization number. It has to be on the box, otherwise the company will not process it. So that's part of returns. And I'm not talking about Amazon, it's just regular returns. Cash disbursement processing system. So they're talking about cash, obviously real cash in the business, that's petty cash disbursement. Some businesses have petty cash of like $500 only. Some businesses have $3,000. So you must keep up with the petty cash, keep receipt and give, keep the receipts and give the correct change. Disbursing cash for miscellaneous purposes. It means the whole idea of petty cash is for small expenses, but they do add up. Okay, so we have a voucher register. Sometimes you will get vouchers numbers and each one would have a voucher number. Then you have the check registered. Of course, everything is pre-numbered. Very good control. You have open purchase reports that you should print every month. Open invoice reports to remind us, which bills are open. Inventory status report, or we say stock status report. And which ones are still open and available and which one is in order. You will get overdue deliveries. There will be a report like that. Okay, managerial reports. Accounts payable aging report is by date, based on the bill and how long it's going to, how long is available to be paid. And also you can see if there are discounts or not. Okay, of course, cash flow statement will help you as well to schedule a managerial report. Okay, so we have a master file for all vendors and transactions are on by vendors. The rest you can really read, the rest of the chapter. Okay, here's the layout that I want you to understand. Vendor account number, vendor name. So in QuickBooks, vendor name is the most important one. And based on the vendor's name, you get the connection to a purchase order, to receiving, to everything. So based on the vendor name. And the rest are just basic information. Okay, so all purchases are authorized. QuickBooks allows you to do this, economic order quantity, but it's not so important. It just says that what is the minimum and the maximum, not to order too much. So you have this on the screen as well. All services should be authorized. So if I'm ordering a singer, somebody has to sign that they will authorize to pay this performance and the amount. I did see it in businesses that people paid on Monday for a performance for next week, which is a big mistake. You cannot pay a service before it performed, before it happened. So always verify dates carefully. Don't just write checks and mail the checks. Maybe the person will not show up because he got paid already. Especially in service, you have to be careful. Okay, so this is in a nutshell the review for 6 and 7. So I want you to be very careful because whatever they're showing here, risk exposure, they're not just pointing it out. It does happen in business and there is risk. Order placed for unneeded, okay. Placed for unneeded goods, especially let's say if you're dealing with jewelry, diamonds, why would you buy 5 if you sell once a year? So you really cannot do excessive inventory because you're going to get stuck. Same thing is about electronics. If you're buying too much and you're going to get stuck with laptops, they will be obsolete. So it's really very important not to excessively buy. Uncoded goods, no receipt of ordered goods. Of course, you're going to lose money because you didn't know that you have it and it's in the warehouse. Fraudulent, okay, all kinds of fraud by buyers and suppliers. So sometimes because overpriced, you'll see that it does happen. Number 5 happens when they want to spend money at the end of the year. So they create fictitious invoices and other purchasing documents and to pay. And they're making fictitious invoices and paying them. So somebody's losing, stealing money here. Omission of liability, understatement of liability, overcharges. Like, of course, if that's going to be the purchasing cost, will be too much. Damage of goods, if you're not writing the condition that it came in, well, the receiving report should say if something came opened or wet or the boxes are broken, things like that. Okay, it sounds funny, but it's not funny. Loss of purchase discount due to late payment. I'm telling you, you can lose a job over this. An example is students who don't know what it means, 210 net 30, and we're talking about 10,000 purchases, let's say. So of course, 10,000 at 2%, you're losing $200. If you ignored it and you paid 10,000, instead of sending 9,800, you did excessive purchasing cost. And after a while, somebody will see it and maybe you would lose your job. So if you constantly didn't pay your bills on time, and that was your job, accounts payable, you could lose your job. Okay, number 14, I did see in businesses when I do audits, duplicate payments of invoices from suppliers. And I gave you the trick in QuickBooks how to do it. You have to use the reference number with the invoice number. So you will not be able, you will be able to get a warning at least that this is already exists in the computer and don't duplicate yourself. Okay, so I do see sometimes that the company paid twice. One company, if they are very honest, they'll say you have, they'll return the payment with a check. Other companies, only when an accountant already found it, they'll say, oh yes, you have a credit all of a sudden. So you really have to be very careful with that. But it's not their job to do your accounting. Okay, so read the rest of the risks. There's a lot of risks here. Another risk is really ordering on credit cards and not paying things. Okay, so how to prevent it? You need organizational control, the control in the company, how the flow of paperwork is going. Documentation control, every document is pre-numbered. And as I said, the voucher system is the best way. You have the vendor pre-numbered documents, and also the checks are pre-numbered, and you see if anything is still open. You will have an open voucher. When they are paid, they're called closed voucher. Asset accountability control is putting stickers and barcodes on every asset that came in. Management practices control. You see that management are careful with inventory. So it's always the tone at the top really put the emphasis on the business and people follow. If management cheats, then employees says, why not me? So we really have to do a lot of training of employees, bonding of employees are dealing with cash, and many approval, testing, and sign off. So remember to check signatures. Every paper that we discussed has signatures. Purchasing agent gets a purchasing order, gets a different signature, and it's approval to send the purchase order. Next, receiving report is signed by the warehouse, and invoice that comes in the mail is processed later. So that's external. So you have definitely different signatures on every paper. And once in a while, do internal audits on purchases and cash disbursement to make sure that the paperwork is done and followed right. Okay, so this is the review for this chapter. Remember, the best way is to always input things with pre-numbered. Make the voucher system pre-numbered, your checks are pre-numbered, and validate the data on purchase orders. Make sure it's true. Okay, so read all the PowerPoint. Reconcile amount of accounts payable, make sure things are paid. Monitor discounts terms. That's what I was saying about discounts of 2%, 1%, 10 days, things like that. Review it and make sure that you follow in timely manner.
Is it okay that I'm using the computer now?
Okay, so File copies of documents pertaining to purchase orders and cash disbursement by number. Include voided documents such as check. So again, it sounds maybe funny, but it's not. The first thing that they do usually in an audit is they ask you to see all the voided checks. So we don't shred checks, we keep them and we explain the reason why we had to void the checks. Sometimes the printer just got stuck. Sometimes the voided check was wrong amount and I had to change the check to another amount. That's the first thing they want to see. Because if you don't have voided documents kept in file, it's suspicious. So always keep voided document like checks in a file. It's the first thing you look in an audit. Okay, these are just other checks that could be done by using a computer. Okay, so remember, we're trying to avoid the risk, and especially this chapter, which is cash expenditure, when we spend the money, and the same thing in cash receivable, cash revenue. So when we receive the money, also there's the room to create fictitious sales, fictitious invoices, things like that. Okay, web security. That's dealing with the internet and orders, authentication, authorization, accountability, data transmission, and should have disaster contingency plan. So what if something is disappearing? How do I retrieve it? So we need basically good security for that too. Okay, so that's the review of chapter 6 and 7 and the voucher system. I want to go into data analytics. I'll try to share. Okay, so accounting information system, we're doing now chapter 9. Chapter 9 from the second book that you have, Accounting Information Book by Richardson. So I'm skipping to chapter 9. The whole point of data analytics, why do we need it in accounting and things like that. I hope you could see the screen. Okay, so we are processing in data analytics large data and very complex. So I'll give you some examples of tables, but it's not going to be such large data, but some of it will be with large data. So difference is it's also because we want to analyze large data. So that's the volume, velocity, very important, and a variety of data. So we have to clean sometimes. Data analytics is how to clean data to be able to be processed. So volume is always the amount of data. Velocity refers to the fact that data comes at quick speed, real time, you need it right away, and we want to work with it faster. Variety refers to unstructured and unprocessed data, and we're going to take the information from social media, emails, whatever, and we process it into tables. So data analytics is a very useful product. Right now, it's changing the accounting world. Many people are asking if you know some data analytics programs, or at least to be a very good specialist in how to use Excel. So in this chapter, we will do Excel. Okay, so the problem with big data is, of course, storage and processing. Storage, many companies choose to use the cloud because you're using the cloud, it's large, it's costing, first of all, low cost, you're paying for data storage. Also safety, you would have it, maybe your business is in Manhattan and your information is in Wisconsin. It doesn't matter. You're not going to have it right stored in your, by you exactly. So they also call it like a cold room. You really have an offsite storage space. Processing power, the processing power requires to obtain information valuable to the company, and it could be very important. So what we need to do is learn how to extract, transform, and load. That's really in a nutshell, data analytics. Because most of the time, data analytics professionals estimate they spend 50% to 90% of the time cleaning data for analysis, because it's not the same. So let's say one column said that the address is there, but the address is the street and a zip code and everything in one field. And the other one, they want it to be street, city, state, and zip in totally different fields. So you have to clean it up if it's not matching. I have to scrub the data to include this and that. Or if you're taking salaries to include. So you need to include salaries clearly, money only, without the word bonuses together or estimated together. Because if they put a word with the money, it's not a data that you could use. It became like a text field, not a value. So that's how you're learning to extract information and change it. Okay. So the impact on accounting, a study estimated the big data could be generated up to 3 trillion in value per year. It just subset of industries impacted. We have a lot of data in our hand. The example over here that they're going to do, they took a very big example of data analytics. Do that for a minute. It's auditing standard and data. Of course, you have to be careful. You want to make sure that you're secure, nobody can reach the data. So breach of security. And here's the example we're going to do. So it's a large data set of US census. Yes, this PowerPoint is on Blackboard. Again, it says Chapter 9 AIS book, like the cover of this chapter. AIS Chapter 9. Okay, so in this example, they want you to analyze data from the census of the year 2010 to 2015. So you will be using this data.gov and then look for the information for the population of the year of 2010 to 2015. Here's the example of how it comes through. You have the region, all the years here. The years 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and then the birth in those years. So we create a table first to make sure that it's a table, that the information is in a table. I want to teach you first how to use filter, and then of course pivot tables. So when you're seeing this, it means each one is already filtered. This is automatic filter of data right here, by table by data. Okay, very useful to use over here, and you could change the data and manipulate it. Okay, I'm going to go into Excel very soon. And if they want, let's say population, if they want average count or whatever, it's going to be on each of the filtered. You could filter that up. You can also create a chart, a quick chart of accounts, a chart from this information. So in this example, they added a total, and then they said, okay, show it the transformation of population if it was increased or decreased from the year 2010 until the year 2015. Then they did pivot table to summarize and go into pivot table. Right here, pivot table, and you could do it on a new worksheet or you could do it on existing worksheet. Defining pivot table. The idea basically is to manipulate information. That's what you do in a pivot table. You're taking the same data, but you want it to be summarized differently. So you can summarize by regions. You could summarize by a year. Many things you could do with it. Okay, so we're going to stop this and go into Excel. Let's see if you can share now. Having a problem sharing today. Okay, I hope you're seeing Excel now, and I'm going to share the document. Okay, so this is about insert pivot table. So pivot tables are special tools that allow to summarize and analyze large data. So here's my information right here. I could take all of this out really, and delete all of this. I hope you'll see it and let me try to do it. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste into it because it doesn't look like I could do it. Okay, I'm in Excel right now. Okay, pivot tables. I can't see it. I found it. Okay, I hope you can see it now. Share. Yes, training assignment. Okay, so here you have insert pivot table. And now I can work with it. Okay, so I have insert pivot table and my information is here. And it says instruction, create a pivot table analysis for the information from C7 until age 32. So this is C7 until age 32. So we're just going to highlight all of it. Okay, all this information, C7 to age 32. You could do it later or you could do it now. It's up to you. You don't have to highlight really because you can also select it here when you say insert pivot table. Okay, so then you would highlight here C7 until age 32. Notice that you have all the dollar signs. So it means it's a fixed table. It's not going to be movable. It's all fixed reference. We talked about the dollar sign C, dollar sign 7. I prefer to do it on an existing, like the instruction said. Okay, so the instruction said to use it on an existing worksheet. So put it right here. Location. You could say, let's say whatever I'm giving you as location. You don't have to highlight again, it's just an idea. Where do you want it? So I want to get the answer on this screen. So I say, okay. And then comes the pivot table menu. So pivot table means I'm going to take the information that I need. Let's assume I want information about every salesperson and how much money they made. So it's salesperson and invoice amount. Okay, I see salesperson and I want the invoice amount. So I'm choosing the field I need. Okay, example is salesperson, making a check mark, or you could just click and drag. You could drag it to salesperson into the rows. And the second part, and the second amount is, no. In a second, I am. Okay, the second part I want is the invoice amount to be totaled. So the rows will be salesperson, and the column I'm going to put on this side will be sum of. If I don't want sum, if I want the average or whatever, I can change it. So right now I got the salesperson and a sum of, and I could show you that I can change many things in here. See the salesperson name, and you have the sum total. If you want the sum, excuse me a second, to be in the categories with $, let's say, or comma, or different setting, okay, like this, you could highlight and click of it. Then if it doesn't work here, you're going to do it here. So you do right mouse click, or you change it. Okay, I don't know what happened right now. 1 second. You could have done, let me undo it. Where is my table? I guess I undid it. Okay, let's start again. I'm highlighting from the middle, from C7 until H32. Insert pivot table, and I want to put it on existing worksheet. I could put it, let's say here. And I did salesperson in the rows and invoice amount. I'll make a check mark and move it to the values, sum of invoice. Okay, it's already worked. I don't know why I have to. If I want another column, I could change it. I can also do value field setting. Click there, and this is the sum. But if I want to do it as different layout, like let's say I want a $sign and things like that, you could change it. Or if I want to do average, I could say average. See, you have over here average, and you have the sum. So if I have two fields, I could change it. Okay, so then you could also do right mouse click. I don't think I see it well. I'll keep it as sum. Okay. Let me just move this. Okay, I want you to see the bottom. Okay, so you could choose to change setting. You could choose to move things down, move things down. You could have a filter. You could change the field style, many things you could do here. And you can remove a field. So if I chose to remove this field, average, let's say, I could choose to remove it. Okay, that's good. And you have over here controls. And we can highlight and change it. Okay, so here you have the pivot table, the functions if you need, insert a function. You can, of course, make a pie out of it, let's say, if I want a chart, no problem. I can highlight this information. I'm not including the total, and I'm including a pie chart. I'll take 2D. Okay, so if I have here explanation of each salesperson with the amount of money. So basically on the side, it shows you which one is by legend. You see the color. Shirley has the largest one. Okay, I want you to see the amount of money. So let me just take it out. Okay, so you can see that Shirley has the largest amount, 524,000. Next is, the next one is Tom Anderson. Okay, so you have them all by here. That's the total of the sales per each one. And that's a quick way of doing a chart from this information. Okay, so that's what the first thing I was doing is manipulating the information by salesperson. Let's say I need a little bit differently. I want the region. You can also add the region. Okay, this is good. Okay, let's go to the next one. Modify field selection. Add or remove data in a pivot table by modifying the field option. Summarize data quickly by choosing field that you would like to analyze. So the instructions now is to use the same pivot table. Let's read. You may need to change the value field setting to find the total invoice. They want over here, using pivot table, find the total invoice amount of each salesperson. Salesperson should be in a rows field. Okay, so it's exactly what we did before. We just wanted this pivot table. It's not functioning well. I'll do it again. I'm going to remove that one. It's not effective. Okay, so highlight your information. And let's do the pivot table again. So pivot table, existing worksheet, and put it around here again. What's the matter with this operation? Pivot table, location, existing. I'll put it to the right. Okay, so now I have a pivot table. Again, salesperson by the rows. And now I want an extra row. I want to show you also by region. So I'm choosing region and I'm pulling regions to the row. That's fine. And now I'm going to take the invoice amount and put the invoice amount on the columns as value. Okay, so that's the pivot table I want. Okay, so show as. Yeah, we don't want to press. Okay, no calculations. So that's fine. And let's see the answer. Okay, so now you can see the answer by region. So it says south, west, east, and north on each one. It happens to be like that. So it looks like it's duplicate. So really I could do by region without the salesperson. If I want to remove something, okay, I could just take the salesperson or uncheck the salesperson and you will get it right now by regions. It just happened the same way. So the information was the same. So each salesperson works in a different region. That's why it worked. Okay, let's skip to Slicer. Slicer is up here. I usually don't use this. I wanted to use the real Excel, but I don't have it on this computer. So it's under Insert. Okay, usually I have an icon Slicer. I don't have it exactly here, but basically it's like a filter. So you're filtering what you need. Let's see the instructions. Okay, so over here they did, they took the pivot table and they changed it and they added some a bonus of 5%. Okay, let me show you a different way. I'm going to copy and make a new sheet. Okay, so when you're working with data, first rule, you should always have your titles on the top. Okay, I want to teach you basic sorting. Okay, so it's basic analysis with filter. Your data should be on the top. If you can eliminate headings and fields, please do so. Now I'm going to take the data and order it a little bit differently. So I'm going to data on top, and this is going to be called automatic filter. So this is your symbol, filter. So what you're gonna get is a filter on the top that each one, I can put whatever I need. You're filtering the good out of the bad. So whatever you need, you're gonna be filtering here. So let's say I want to, now that I have the filter, I clicked on filter, I have a filter right here. So I can filter by region. Let's say I want only the West. So I click here, pull down, you can sort by ascending order. So now it's gonna be sorted by east, north, whatever. That's one way of quickly doing sort. Then you have a filter down here, and I want to select only the east. So I say, okay. And now I got filtered only the east. How do I know which one is filtered? You will have this symbol right next to the filter. You will have usually a dot or something that tells you that this is the descending one. This is what you filtered. If you want to go back to normal, you go back to filter and you select all or remove the filter, and you'll get everybody again. So when I said sort based on the data, it took everything together. So it's not a mistake. Shirley is still in the east. So if I would do filter by salesperson, so I'm going to take everything off and ask for only Shirley. I would get only Shirley, and I see that she's in the east. And then you could do totals on this. You could go back to the regular way, the home screen, and do, that's automatic sum. See, it's automatic sum of just this. That's her total, not everybody. So you can do many things with filter. Okay, very useful tool. And this is even without pivot table. Okay, that's one way. If you want to find out other information, you have equals to, less than, find me, between, or the top 10. So I could do many things with this, and I can change it to dollar signs, many things I could do with that. Okay, so example. I need order number. Filter. Just this order number, 619, I have an order number, and I'll get the total. So right now I filtered twice. You'll see the filter here on Shirley, Montana, and the order number. So then you don't get confused with any information. If you need to change something about the invoice amount, you're working on one line at a time. Okay, so you can remove the filter, click here, remove the filter, select all, and also remove here, because it's two fields that are filtered. I'm going to remove the filter here and say all. Okay, so now you got back to normal. Nothing is filtered. Okay, so you can do automatic sum now to double check if you want to make sure that the numbers we got before, 13 million or something, was right. You could just do automatic sum, 1,354,000, like we saw before. See, same number, 1,354,025. Exactly the same number. Okay, so that's that analytics of basic format. And that was going to data. Again, the rule was really to have it on the top without extra any information, and you're going to do the filter. So I did it for you here and sheet number 2. Okay, right here with a filter. Now, if you don't need it, you just go back to data and you remove the filter altogether. So you based on the table. If you still want to do insert pivot table, you could start right away with this. Insert pivot table, you don't need to take the total at all. Insert pivot table. And you go to existing worksheet and you ask for it wherever you want it. So usually when I give existing worksheet, you change it to the location that I'll give you. Say post it here. Okay, and then you can do whatever we did also. Invoice amount, by column, by salesperson if you want, and calculation fields. Okay, so now we can also insert function. Okay, you can have if, many functions that you can add to a range of sales. Some. I want, let's say, inserting it in the wrong place. 1 second. I'm going to take in a column. Sum of invoice amount by 1.05. Okay, I have to check that it's working. No, just 1.5. I only 1.05 for percent. Okay, so this is my amount. All done. And that's my insert function. So I just did an example of calculation field, and this is calculation of a bonus. Okay, so the bonus calculation, and of course I could do a total of this as well, equals sum. And that was the calculation bonus. Okay, so you'll see it in calculation field. You have selection, sum of the invoice amount, and here's a calculation field. Create the calculated field to further analysis the pivot table, whatever you got. You could do it in the column and calculate the fields. You could put it into the field as well and change it. So they showed you an example. Okay, let's see if it works. Right here. Yeah, sum of bonuses, the 5% that I just did. And they did it all in cap and also with dollar signs. So the value is with dollar signs. Okay, so this is in a nutshell, the exercise you're gonna have. I'm gonna do Excel prep. I'm gonna be doing this exercise really, a little bit different. You will get this file, customer sales, state and all that, and shipping cost. And the instructions will be here on the side. I hope I'm sharing the right one.
No, but the buyer just got commitment today, so.
Okay, so let me just close this. Okay, so here's the example that you will get. It's not going to be so many sheets. You will have to do only 2 things. You will have exercise 1 and exercise 2. If you don't see the information, you just have to match it to make sure you can see all the information. Okay, so the exercise would be, again, about create pivot table. Make sure the pivot table is on this worksheet. You have to follow the instructions. Broken down by gender, find the average gross wages of salary versus hourly employees. The gender and the work group should be in the same pivot table field. That's the second exercise. First exercise, I will put more information exactly if I want it to be starting at L12. That's what I want the pivot table to come. Okay, so I'll give you exact information where to put it, but definitely on the same sheet. Don't put it on an extra sheet. Okay, so the first one says, let's read it. Okay, did I lose some lines? It looks like I did. Oh, no, I didn't lose. Okay, so customer name, state, country, market, region, product, name, sales, quantity, discount, profit, and shipping cost. Okay, the instruction is make sure the pivot table is on this worksheet again. For each region, so it's by region, you're going to take region into rows. Find the total sales. So you're going to take sales column, which is this one. Then average profit over here, you're going to change to average, and total shipping cost. That's the sum. Okay, so it's not very difficult instructions, but always remember to take all this information. So sometimes the data set is even longer. That's how you start. Insert, function, and so on. Okay, somehow it didn't open right. Okay, I'll try one more time to open it. Okay, I hope you see it now. So highlight from A till K, all the way down till the end. Okay, so by me, it's K101. And you're gonna go with insert, pivot tables, existing worksheets. Okay, so here's my pivot table. Now I'm following the instructions. They said for each region, so I take region first, select region, put regions into the rows. That's how you start. Now besides region, they said find the, let's read it again. Okay, I'm a little bit stuck. Okay, so they want to find the sales of the total sales. So we're going to take sales, move it, take sales and put it into values. Then they want shipping cost totals and the average of profit. So profit right under. Instead of sum, you could click here and modify, change it to average. And then they said shipping cost. I'm taking the shipping cost as well. And automatically it's by sum. So I think they wanted sum. And that's basically it. Let's see what they wanted. For each region, find the total sale, average profit, and total shipping cost. Okay, so I did total sales, sum of sales, average profit, and sum of shipping cost. Total. Yep, that's exactly what it should look like. And you have automatically totals. So if you want to do all of them in dollar signs, modify each one. You can highlight. Okay, it's a little bit acting up today. Okay, so you can modify the layout, all of it. Should be dollar sign, so you can do all of it in dollar sign. If it doesn't work this way, you could do it also from here. Modify the field. You could change title, you could do value as. Okay, so right here, value field setting, average is correct. Okay, somehow it's missing. I don't know what's wrong with this, but usually it's right mouse click and you could change it. Setting, show value as no calculation. number format. I don't know why it's not functioning. Oh, okay, finally. Number format, currency. And like that, I would change them and say, okay. So you would get on each one number format. Again, I'll try it again one more time. Number format and change it to currency. And then you're done with the exercise. Format, currency. Okay, so this is how you do exercise 1, following the instruction. This will be on Excel prep. I'm going to leave it so you will do exercise 2 on your own. Exercise 1, I'm showing how to do it.
Jerry?
Okay, good luck, everybody.